Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. 87 years ago, two teenagers from Cleveland created a character that would become more famous than they could ever imagine. Today, we're going to explore how Superman evolved from a simple comic book hero into a global cultural icon. Good afternoon, my name is Steve Younis, and today I'll be presenting the best of Superman over the years, decade by decade. I'm the owner and editor-in-chief of SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. It's been online since 1994 and it's become the premier online destination for all things Superman. Over the years, I've assisted as a source of information for many Superman projects, including the movie Superman Returns, the documentary Look Up in the Sky, The Amazing Story of Superman, the publication The Essential Superman Encyclopedia, The Secret Origin, The Story of DC Comics documentary, and a number of other projects. Is there any volume?
Oh, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Palmer, the voice of Superman and Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
SupermanHomepage.com. All right.
Hey, this is Christopher Gordon. You're on the Superman Homepage.
Hey, this is Sam Whitwer, and you're watching Superman Homepage.
Okay, so let's get into today's presentation and take a look at the first decade of Superman's journey, 1938 to 1947. As you may know, Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, two young men living in Cleveland, Ohio in the USA. He first appeared in 1938 with the first issue of Action Comics #1 and was an immediate success with the public. Well, Action Comics #1 was obviously the comic book that started it all, and without it we wouldn't be here talking about Superman. For many years, the first 10 years of Superman was best represented by a man called Clayton Bud Collyer. With the Fleischer Superman cartoons, the long-running Superman radio series, this dominated the first 10-year period of Superman's existence. There's no doubt that Collyer brought to life the Man of Steel for an entire generation. Sure, there are many Superman actors from current generations that like George Newbern and Tim Daly for voice actors, but for me, nobody embodied the voice of both Superman and Clark Kent like Bud Collyer did. In an interview with Collyer, he explained that the producers of the radio series didn't know how the character should be played. At one point, they considered having two different actors, one to play Clark Kent and one to play Superman. That wasn't a problem for Bud Collyer, who was able to differentiate the two roles vocally using his training as a singer to create distinct vocal registers for the mild-mannered reporter and the powerful Man of Steel. A perfect example of this ability can be heard in an episode of the 1940s radio series in which Clark Kent, Jimmy Olsen, and another youngster by the name of Pug are trapped in a cave. How can Clark Kent save his friends without revealing his identity? Take a listen.
The oil lamp's starting to put... It's going out, don't it? It's going out. The oil is all used up. All right, it's going out. So what? There it goes. See? It's out. Fine. I hope that's the end of that. Hey, ain't that swell? It's pitch black in here. The light ain't shining in my eyes no more. I can get some shut-eye now. You're gonna get as sick of the darkness as you did of that... now I'm starting to talk about it.
Used to the darkness.
You say something, Mr. Kent?
Yes, I thought there was someone in here with us.
Someone in this dungeon with us? There wasn't anyone in here when the light went out.
But there is someone here now, Jim.
It's Superman.
Don't be silly, Jim.
Who is it? Who's in here?
Jim's right. Superman. I've come to help you, all of you.
Superman? Is that the guy
No
that...
time for talk, Pug. You can talk later. Now listen to me. This is what I want to do. You two boys are going to stay down here for a while.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. What about me, Superman?
You, Mr. Kent, are going to come with me. I may need you. Now here, let me get you out of those irons.
Boy, listen to that guy bust those chains. Hey, Mr. Button, will you...
No, not now. Let's work fast. If you're all set, Mr. Kent, come along with me.
I'm all set.
You never believed in Superman before, Mr. Kent. You better start believing in him now.
All right, you boys. You'll stay here till I accomplish what I've come for. I'll return or send someone to release you. All right, Kent. Let's go.
That door is locked, mister, and it's a heavy door made of oak. Kent, do you think you're
One
gonna...
stroke with my fist against the lock.
Hey, Kent, you hear that? He done it.
And now, Mr. Kent, after you.
You see, Pug, I told you it was Superman. I told you.
It worked. My trick of talking to myself in two voices worked perfectly. Yeah.
So right there in that example, you see the amazing ability of Bud Collyer to change his performance between the roles of Clark Kent and Superman. And don't forget, we're talking about an era when most radio shows were performed live and without the computer technology and editing that's available today. While doing the radio series, Collyer also voiced the dual role in 17 animated shorts commonly known as the Fleischer Superman cartoons.
In the endless reaches of the universe, there once existed a planet known as Krypton, a planet that burned like a green star in the distant heavens. There, civilization was far advanced and had brought forth a race of supermen, whose mental and physical powers were developed to the absolute peak of human perfection. But there came a day when giant quakes threatened to destroy Krypton forever. One of the planet's leading scientists, sensing the approach of doom, placed his infant son in a small rocket ship and sent it hurtling in the direction of the Earth just as Krypton exploded. The rocket ship sped through star-studded space, landing safely on Earth with its precious burden, Krypton's sole survivor. A passing motorist found the uninjured child and took it to an orphanage. As the years went by and the child grew to maturity, he found himself possessed of amazing physical powers. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. The infant of Krypton is now the man of steel, Superman. To best be in a position to use his amazing powers in a never-ending battle for truth and justice, Superman has assumed the disguise of Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper.
So it was typical for movies theatres to show at least one short cartoon before a feature film back in the day, and this was the original venue for these Superman cartoons. Paramount Studios obtained permission to make a series of cartoons based on the comic book strip. They contracted with Max and Dave Fleischer to produce them as the Fleischers were making other cartoons Paramount distributed. The pilot cost $50,000. This is 3 times what Popeye cartoons of that time cost. Subsequent cartoons in the series had a budget of $30,000. The overall cost for all 17 of the Superman cartoons was $530,000. Being Superman's first moving picture appearance, animated or live action, the importance of the Fleischer cartoons in making Superman publicly renowned cannot be understated. With only the Superman comic books, Superman would have been popular without a doubt with children in America, but the radio and cartoon serials made the character so well known that he was soon recognised by all of North America and the entire world. Thanks in part to these cartoons, his fame would snowball to create his lasting success and international stardom. But Superman's greatest test wasn't battling supervillains, it was proving he could leap from radio waves to television screens. While Bud Collyer had conquered audio storytelling, the 1940s were ending and a new medium was about to change entertainment forever. Superman would again be seen on the silver screen with Kirk Alyn starring in 2 film serials as Superman early in this 10-year period. The first in 1948 and the second in 1950. However, just like Collyer in this decade before him, the second decade of Superman's story was dominated by George Reeves, who portrayed the Man of Steel in the Adventures of Superman TV series.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of Superman.
It was often very common for popular radio shows to make the transition to television. The Jack Benny program and Lights Out were among such series to do so. And Robert J. Maxwell, who had produced The Adventures of Superman on radio, wanted to make sure the Man of Steel made it to the small screen. Clayton Bud Collyer did not have the physique to play Superman, and Kirk Alyn turned down the part for fear of being typecast. Therefore, George Reeves was chosen to play the role of Superman. Borrowing from the radio series and Fleischer cartoons, the introduction to this 6-season television show made truth, justice, and the American way synonymous with Superman for years to come. George's portrayal of Clark Kent and Superman made this strange visitor from another planet a friend to many boys and girls and their parents all over the world. Reeves first portrayed the Man of Tomorrow in the 1951 theatrical release Superman and the Mole Men. This led to his playing Clark Kent and Superman in 104 TV episodes until his mysterious death in 1959. Had Reeves not met an untimely demise, he would have also directed episodes for a 7th season of The Adventures of Superman. The cause of his death has been hotly debated ever since. In 2006, a movie titled Hollywoodland would delve into Reeves' life and death, with none other than Ben Affleck playing the role of George Reeves. 1958 to 1967, George Reeves had made Superman a television icon, but his tragic death in 1959 left boots that seemed impossible to fulfill. Fortunately, comic book creators were busy revolutionising the character on the page, introducing concepts that would define Superman for decades to come, and thankfully, a familiar voice was ready to bring these new adventures to life. In a period where the Silver Age of comic books was introducing some great and long-lasting concepts to the Superman mythos, such as Supergirl, Krypto, Kandor, Brainiac, Bizarro, Superboy, Lana Lang, Smallville, the Justice League of America, and the Fortress of Solitude, it was the Filmation cartoon series, The New Adventures of Superman, that had many a youngster waking up early on Saturday mornings. While the animation lacked the grace and style of the Fleischer cartoons 25 years earlier, Collier's familiar voice, along with fellow radio cast members Joan Alexander as Lois Lane and narrator Jackson Beck, gave a new generation of fans something to look forward to.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look! Up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman! Superman rocketed to Earth as an infant when the distant planet Krypton exploded, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered
independent reporter for the Daily Planet, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and freedom with superpowers far beyond those of ordinary mortals. It's Superman, Superman.
The New Adventures of Superman debuted on the American network CBS on September 10, 1966. In the second season, the show was renamed the Superman Aquaman Hour of Adventure, adding adventures with other DC heroes. In 1968, the show format again changed, becoming the Batman Superman Hour, which ran until September 6, 1969, when the show was cancelled partly from protests by Actions for Children's Television because of violent content. In the first season, the show had 2 6-minute Superman cartoons, bracketing a Superboy cartoon. I should note that 1966 was also the same year that Superman made the leap onto Broadway with the musical comedy It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman, starring Bob Holliday as Superman. The Broadway musical would run from March 26 until July 17, 1966 at the Alvin Theatre. I had the great pleasure of befriending Bob Holliday later in his life when I facilitated his appearing as a special guest at the 2008 annual Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois. While Superman was expanding his comic book universe with new characters and concepts, television executives realized something powerful. Superman worked even better with friends. The age of the solo hero was giving way to something bigger, team adventures that would captivate a whole new generation. Once again, TV animation will dominate this next decade of Superman's story, with the Super Friends cartoons playing a major part in bringing Superman together with DC's other superhero characters, such as Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Aquaman, among many others. Through different versions of the show from 1973 onwards, the Super Friends won over many fans and kept Superman in the hearts and minds of youngsters everywhere.
In the great hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the world's 4 greatest heroes, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Aquaman, and those 3 junior super friends, Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog. Their mission, to fight injustice, to right that which is wrong, and to serve all mankind.
1973 Super Friends was for Superman to team up with other DC Comics heroes, along with eager young hero trainees Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog. Their base of operations was called the Hall of Justice, where they responded to trouble alerts and information supplied by Colonel Wilcox. The adventures were 1 hour long and included occasional cameos by other heroes like Plastic Man and The Flash. Hanna-Barbera artist Alex Toth did the original character designs. The series would change name and format a few times over the years, in becoming the all-new Super Friends Hour in '77, Challenge of the Super Friends in 1978, The World's Greatest Super Friends in 1979, Super Friends The Legendary Superpowers Show in '84, and the Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians in 1985. For nearly 4 decades, Superman had conquered radio, television, and animation. There was one frontier he'd never truly mastered: the big screen. Previous film serials had modest affairs, but in 1978, audiences were about to discover what happened when you gave Superman a Hollywood budget and asked just one question: what if a man could really fly? One name: Christopher Reeve. Through 4 Superman films, Christopher Reeve would become a household name, and for many fans, become the face of Superman for all time. Together with John Williams' magical theme, Christopher Reeve's Superman reinvigorated the Man of Steel, ensuring he had many tomorrows to come.
Kal-El, you do not remember me. I am Jor-El. I am your father. even though you've been raised as a human being, you are not one of them. You have great powers, only some of which you have discovered.
A man gets older and he thinks very differently, and things get very clear. There's one thing I do know, son, and that is you are here for a reason.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me? Who's got you?
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Who are you?
A friend.
You are revealed to the world, but you still must keep your secret identity.
Why?
Your enemies will discover the only way to hurt you by hurting the people you care for.
I don't know who you are. Just a friend from another star.
Is that how a warped brain like yours gets its kicks? By planning the death of innocent people?
No, by causing the death of innocent people.
Mind over muscle.
They can be a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, I have sent them you, my only son.
1978's Superman the movie is still considered by many as the pinnacle superhero movie, with many of today's superhero movies directors openly admitting that they still watch the film before starting a new project to understand what they're aspiring to achieve. Superman the movie and Superman 2 were filmed at the same time with director Richard Donner at the helm. However, Donner would be removed from the project by producers Alexander and Ilya Salkind after completing the first film. Richard Lester was brought in to reshoot scenes and complete filming on the 1981 sequel. Unfortunately, Superman 3 and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, while having their moments, were never able to reach the quality of the first two films. Meanwhile, over in the comic books, 2 years before Superman's 50th anniversary, DC decided it was time to clean house. Using Crisis on Infinite Earths to wipe the slate, DC hired John Byrne to introduce a new era of Superman stories that would resonate with fans for years to come. Readers saw Superman receive an update for the 80s. Krypton became a cold, unfeeling dystopia where Kryptonians were grown in pods and didn't come in contact with one another. No longer was Superman fighting the never-ending battle as Superboy, as his powers manifested throughout his teenage years. Byrne also kept Clark's adopted parents alive. Having Jonathan and Martha Kent around gave him a connection to in his adulthood that he lacked in the Silver Age of comic books. Lois named Superman after he saves her on an experimental space plane, echoing the helicopter rescue in Superman the movie. Christopher Reeve had proven Superman could soar on the big screen, but by the late 1980s, both the films and comics felt like they needed fresh energy. What happened next would shock the world, literally making international headlines and proving that even Superman wasn't invincible. This next decade saw Superman once more become a force on our TV screens with the Ruby Spears Superman cartoons and the Superboy TV series. And then the hugely successful Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, giving modern audiences a romantic spin on the relationship between Clark Kent and Lois Lane. With the internet in its infancy, this show quickly built an online following, with Terry Hatcher wrapped in the Superman cape becoming one of the most downloaded images of its time. We also can't forget the hugely popular Superman the Animated Series, which launched Superman into new life in animated form, reinvigorating old story elements from a new angle. However, the biggest event of this 10-year period was definitely the death of Superman's story in the comic books, which made headlines all over the world. By 1992, there were 4 Superman titles with 4 creative teams under the supervision of editor Mike Carlin. With 4 teams of creators and 4 titles that had such a tight continuity, it was necessary for the creative forces and the editor to meet and discuss upcoming story ideas and map the future of Superman. One of these super summits was held to discuss not the death of Superman, but the wedding of Lois and Clark. Clark had proposed at the beginning of Superman number 50, and by the time the issue ended, Lois had accepted. A few months later, in the comic pages of Action Comics 662, Clark even told Lois the truth about his double life. It was an event in real life as well when the press picked up on the story and Superman got some ink in the newspapers and mentions on telecasts across the country. Even the most sceptical readers were beginning to wonder if DC was actually going to go ahead with it. And indeed they would have if it wasn't for the medium seemingly more powerful than comics, television. The creators of Lois and Clark were planning on marrying the character on the TV series, so the comic book writers were asked to hold off on their plans for a while longer. The creative team was left with a story vacuum. The solution came from something that had become a running gag at these Superman summits. Mike Carlin told Comic Scene magazine in 1993, "This isn't the first meeting someone said, let's kill him off. This is not the first meeting or plotting session I've gone to on any character where they said, let's kill him. I mean, that happens in life and that happens in comics. At the meeting we had planned to do another story, but due to extenuating circumstances, we had to push that back a little bit and then we had to fill the gap. So somebody said, let's kill Superman." The real life world started to catch wind of the story. The front page of the New York City paper Newsday said it loud and clear, the death of Superman. The world finally knew, and the news came as a shock to fans and non-readers alike, and even made international news, appearing in papers as far away as Broken Hill here in Australia. Most comic fans treated the news with scepticism, especially long-time readers. Non-comic readers, however, were taken aback. Most people weren't even aware that Superman comic books were still being published. For many, DC was killing an American institution. On November 18, 1992, Superman number 75 was finally released. Over the course of the next few days, people who had never even dreamt of walking into a comic book store were standing in line waiting to buy their copy. The book came encased in a sealed black bag with a bleeding red S on the front. It was eye-catching, and for many buyers, all they ever got to see, as the prevailing wisdom of the time was that the book would be worth more if it was never opened. If the buyer actually wanted to take the chance and open the bag, they were confronted with a cover made up to look like a tombstone. Inside were 32 splash pages showing Superman and Doomsday going at it. The battle was violent and no holds barred. Finally, two came at each other for one final onslaught. The last pages featured a gatefold showing Superman dying in Lois Lane's arms. The initial printing of the comic was somewhere around 3 million copies. DC went back to press with the book, putting out a version with a new cover featuring a torn piece of Superman's cape flowing in the wind, and that was sold at newsstands. Still more printings were distributed, and when all was said and done, the book sold some 6 million copies. After Killing Superman made global news, creators faced a new challenge. How do you tell Superman's story to an audience that they think know everything about Superman? The answer was brilliant in its simplicity. Start over. Go back to the beginning. Show us the boy before he became the legend. Smallville, the story about Clark Kent before he became Superman, would surprise many people with its success. In September 2000, the WB network announced that it was ordering up to 13 episodes of an hour-long TV show featuring a teenage Clark Kent dealing with his emerging powers prior to taking on the mantle of Superman. Smallville premiered on Tuesday, October 16, 2001. Running for 10 seasons, Smallville's series finale aired on May 13th, 2011. The show's star Tom Welling would forever be both praised for his portrayal of Clark Kent but also derided for his unwillingness to take on the Superman suit and persona. The show's no tights, no flights motto was reportedly at the behest of Welling, who was worried that he'd be typecast like other Superman actors before him. He has since softened his stance on the character, joining Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor, in attending numerous conventions and panels discussing Smallville, with the pair investigating the possibility of continuing on the story of these characters in animated form. Welling did reprise his role as Clark Kent in 2019, making a cameo appearance in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover on the CW. This decade of Superman's history also saw many stop-start attempts at relaunching the character's film franchise, the most notorious being the never-made Superman Lives, starring Nicolas Cage as Superman. Finally, we saw Superman return to the big screen in the 2006 aptly named Superman Returns. Starring Brandon Routh, in the title role, Superman Returns would mostly be filmed right here in Australia. I was lucky enough to be invited behind the scenes, visiting the sound stages in Fox Studios and getting to interview the cast while filming took place at the Australian Museum on the east side of Hyde Park. Smallville had proven there was still hunger for Superman stories, but the character was scattered across different media with no unified vision. The 2008 to 2017 period would change that, delivering more Superman content than any period in the character's history, though not without some heated debates among fans. Probably one of the richest decades for Superman content, this 10-year period saw a multitude of animated movies, TV shows, comic book relaunches, and big-budget films starring Superman. Animated movies involving Superman released on home video during this decade included Justice League New Frontier, Superman Batman Public Enemies, Superman Shazam The Return of Black Adam, Justice League Doom, Superman vs. the Elite, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, and Justice League vs. Teen Titans, to name a few. On TV, Superman would make brief appearances on the popular Young Justice animated series, which debuted in 2010, while 2015 would introduce us to Melissa Benoist as Supergirl, which would run for 6 seasons. However, this decade is highlighted no doubt by Henry Cavill's performance as the Man of Steel in a number of big budget films which saw him become the Superman of a new generation.
The world's too big, Mom. Then make it smaller. Focus on my voice. Pretend it's an island out in the ocean. Can you see it? I see it. My son was in the bus. He saw what Clark did.
You have to keep this side of yourself a secret.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
I have so many questions. Where do I come from?
You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark. Whoever that man is, he's going to change the world.
These films would also see a divide form between Superman fans online. While 2013's Man of Steel was mostly well received, the decision to pit Superman and Batman against each other in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice wasn't as critically acclaimed. 2017's Justice League is another story altogether, with director Zack Snyder leaving the film due to the suicide death of his daughter, which saw Joss Whedon brought in to complete the movie. Superman's resurrection in the film would be overshadowed by bad CGI, which was needed to remove Henry Cavill's prominent moustache, which he was unable to simply shave off because of his role in another film. On the comic book side of things, this decade would see DC introduce the Rebirth era, which saw many Superman fans return as comic book readers, as quite a few had been turned away with the New 52 initiative. As we move into Superman's 9th decade, the character faced challenges that would have made Lex Luthor proud. Corporate shake-ups, fan division, and constant pressure of relevance in an increasingly complex world, but Superman had survived worse before, and he was about to prove once again why he's called the Man of Tomorrow. Even though we're not fully through this next decade, it's already been a big one for the Man of Steel. We saw 2 seasons of Sci-Fi's Krypton TV series, 5 seasons of the CW's Superman and Lois TV series, a whole lot of controversy in the Superman comic books, and of course, a new Superman movie. Action Comics, the book that started it all, reached its 1000th issue in 2018. DC announced Superman's motto would be evolving to truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, and Lois Lane and Superman's son, John, would come out as bisexual. The fan-driven #Release the Snyder Cut movement would see Warner Brothers and HBO Max offer Snyder a chance to complete his vision for the Justice League movie, and the 4-hour Zack Snyder's Justice League was released. While fans in general seemed to appreciate Snyder's vision over Whedon's version, Superman fans weren't necessarily overjoyed, with Whedon's presenting a more positive, colourful version of the Man of Steel than Snyder, moustache gate notwithstanding. Either way, it was good to see more of Henry Cavill as Superman. Speaking of Henry Cavill, he would be involved in even more controversy when he made a cameo appearance at the end of the Black Adam movie, and then announced he was back officially as the Man of Steel, only to have the rug pulled out from underneath him when Warner Brothers decided to go in a different direction. In May 2022, the DC League of Super Pets animated movie hit the big screen, with Dwayne Johnson voicing Krypto and Kevin Hart voicing Ace. The animated movie was a treat for the whole family that everyone could enjoy. Warner Brothers Animation also released its first ever CG animated film based on a DC property with Battle of the Super Sons. Featuring the sons of Superman and Batman, John Kent and Damian Wayne, the movie was also released to home video in 2022. While Henry Cavill's time as Superman was over, we did get a new version of Supergirl in the Flash movie, played by Sasha Calle. 2023 gave us the new animated series, My Adventures with Superman. Produced by Warner Brothers Animation, My Adventures with Superman introduced us to 20-somethings Clark Kent, the bright and driven Lois Lane, and their best friend Jimmy Olsen as they begin to discover who they are and everything they can accomplish together as investigative journalists team, an investigative reporting team at the Daily Planet. The first 2 seasons were a big hit with fans, and we await the premiere of season 3 sometime in the next few months, hopefully. Which brings us to 2025. But before that, we go here. So which brings us to 2025. James Gunn, Younis co-CEO of DC Studios, wrote and directed a new live-action Superman movie starring David Corenswet as Superman Clark Kent, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. The film, released earlier this year, launching the new cinematic DC universe, created great critical success. The film's message of kindness and positivity has resonated with audiences who are happy to return to a brighter, more optimistic Superman. I was invited to the Australian premiere of the movie and couldn't have been happier. It was like I was a kid watching my Saturday morning cartoons again, or seeing a comic book come to life.
Home. Gave me a home.
Superman's cousin is also set to star in her own film titled Supergirl, with Australian actress Millie Alcock in the title role. The movie is scheduled to be released in June next year. And we won't have to wait too long for Superman's return, with James Gunn recently announcing a follow-up film titled Man of Tomorrow, scheduled to be released in July 2027. It's definitely a great time to be a Superman fan. My website, supermanhomepage.com, has been online since 1994. It started as just a fan site, but over the 3 decades of running the site, I've realised something profound. Superman's greatest superpower isn't his strength or ability to fly, it's his ability to evolve while never losing his core. Think about it. Over the past 45 minutes, we've gone from 2 Cleveland teenagers creating a character in 1938, through radio dramas that made families gather around their sets, to a TV show that defined childhoods, to movies that made us believe a man could fly, to comics that weren't afraid to kill their hero, to modern films that remind us why being kind matters. Every generation has found their Superman. Your parents might remember George Reeves, or Christopher Reeve, or Henry Cavill, or Tom Welling might be your Superman. Your kids might discover him through My Adventures with Superman or James Gunn's new film. And here's the beautiful thing. They're all valid. They're all Superman. Because at his heart, Superman represents something we all need. The belief that tomorrow can be better than today, that someone out there is looking out for us, and that no matter how dark things get, there's always hope. That's why I believe Superman's best days aren't behind him, they're ahead of him. As long as we need heroes, as long as we need hope, as long as we need someone to remind us to be better than we are, Superman will always be there. So whether you're a long-time fan or someone who just discovered Superman through David Corenswet's latest performance, remember this: you're not just a fan of a character, you're part of a story that began 87 years ago and will continue long after we're all gone. If you want to keep up with Superman's continuing adventures and join our community of fans from around the world, I invite you to visit supermanhomepage.com. We're the #1 Superman fan site in the world, and we'd love for you to join us. I'm Steve Younis. Thank you for joining me over this 45-minute flight through Superman's incredible history. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I'm only too happy to answer any questions you might have. And we have some giveaways for everyone who's stuck around. There is a Superman Pop Funko Pop keychain that we've got for everyone who's stuck around. So feel free to stick around and make sure you grab yours. But before we all converge over here to Cat and grab those freebies, is there any questions anybody might have? Yes, the gentleman in the straight shirt. What is my favourite Superman? Okay. The question was, what is my favourite Superman? It's an interesting one because obviously I grew up with Christopher Reeve as the character that brought me to Superman in many ways. The cartoons were always there for me as a kid. But my favourite version of Superman, that might be a little bit controversial, it's actually Bud Collyer, the guy who voiced Superman in the radio series. To me, he just defined what Superman and Clark Kent could be. For everybody else that came after him, I mean, you see Christopher Reeve in that scene in Superman the movie where he's Clark Kent and he's hunched over and he takes his glasses off and he goes from that persona of Clark to Superman. Bud Collyer set that tone early by being able to distinguish between Clark Kent's mild-mannered, timid voice to that, boisterous Man of Steel. So I just love that, and the fact that the radio series is a movie in your mind. You can imagine how it is yourself rather than have somebody else tell you what it is. I love that about the radio series and audio books in general. So I laid down here in pink. You had a question? Sorry? What got me into Superman? So, I think I've always been a Superman fan as a kid, watching Superman cartoons on Saturday mornings. I'm showing my age now because cartoons are available 7 days a week, 24/7. But when I was young, it was on Saturday mornings where you woke up to watch cartoons. But I think it was in 1981, my uncle took a bunch of us nieces and nephews to see Superman 2 at the movies. And I just remember coming out of that film believing that a man could fly, and from there on it was just Superman all the time for me. But it wasn't until the early 90s when the internet started coming around that I started looking for things about the characters and things that I enjoyed, and that's when I discovered an online world of Superman fans, and the website started from there. And so it's been a hobby that I started that has become bigger than I could ever have dreamed. It's opened so many doors for me and created so many lifelong friends. So thanks for that question.
What will be happen, let's say, in the generation of Superman in the future? What will gonna be happen, and what you think it will be?
That's a great question. So the question is, what do I think Superman? Where will he go for future generations? The great thing is about Superman is that each generation gets a Superman that they need. It's hard to predict what will come next, but at his core, I think Superman will always be the hero that we need, that will always represent hope. And so it's we look at my adventures with Superman, the anime, and it's all very anime inspired, and I think that will resonate with kids of today because that's kind of the art style that they look for. And I'm really happy that this new James Gunn film has brought everyone back to this idea that kindness is punk rock, and because we're in this generation where we're so cynical, and I love Man of Steel, I love Henry Cavill as Superman in those films, but that represented what would Superman be like in a cynical world like ours? What if he really came to our world? How would people treat him? And that's the story we got then. But now I think we're also very cynical. We've got a lot of anti-heroes, and we've got a lot of heroes that have ulterior motives, heroes that are out for vengeance because their family was killed, or heroes that were out for revenge with one kind or another. But Superman represents doing what's right because it's the right thing to do, not for any other reason. And he thought that he was sent here in that movie because his parents sent him here to do something, and then he finds out that's actually not why they sent me here, and that was controversial for a lot of people. But then he realised that why he does what he does is because of the people that actually did bring him up, the Kents, and that being good isn't something to be ashamed of, or something that we should shy away from. It's actually a superpower in itself, because for many people, being kind is seen as a weakness, when actually it takes a lot of strength to be the kind of person that will stand up for what is right, because it's so easy to go along with what the rest of the world says you should do, and not many people will stand up and do what they think is the right thing, because for many people it's too difficult. So I think the future generations will just get the Superman that they need for whatever that time period requires. But I appreciate that question. Thank you very much. Gentleman, microphone.
2 questions. Number 1, how old is Superman? How old is Superman, the adult version? And the second question is, does Superman ever grow old? So how old is he, and does he grow old?
So do you mean how old is he within the stories, or how old is he in existence?
Well,
I'll answer both. So obviously Superman originated in Action Comics #1 back in 1938. So he is nearly 90 years old, 87.
Oh yeah, I mean the character.
But within the stories,
yes,
he's usually around 33, depending on the story they want to tell. But in the comic books, he's around early 30s, mid 30s. But in the latest movie, he's probably not that old as yet. He's still just 3 years into his superhero life. So he's as old as the story needs him to be, is probably the answer to that question. What was your other question?
Second one, so because obviously he ages, is he ever going to grow old?
So there are stories where he has grown old, and he has been the last man on Earth, and but most stories just regenerate to have him with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and all those characters, so that it's perpetual. But there are stories in the comic books where he has grown old and outlived everybody. So there are stories, but we don't know how Kryptonians age within the stories, so he's perpetually around the same age all the time, which kind of was a hint, an in-joke when they made his birthday February 29th. He only has a birthday every 4 years, that's why he doesn't grow old.
So Superman has had many stories and many comics and many different adaptations. What is one of your favorite stories in a Superman issue or movie or any adaptation?
It's probably a lot of, there are a few of them. So some of my favorite storylines that I would highly recommend, one of them is Superman for All Seasons. Just a great story looked at from different perspectives. The other one is All-Star Superman, which I think went a long way to inspiring James Gunn's latest film. And then there's the issue, What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, where Superman fights the Elite, which is a very modern kind of superhero gang, and it looks like in that story that Superman goes over the edge, but actually, if you read the story, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, it's a really great story about what makes Superman who he is, and scares people into thinking what would happen if Superman did snap, and we're glad that he doesn't. That's it. We're done. We're over time. Sorry, we're 10 minutes over time, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging around and being part of this panel. I really appreciate your attention. I will be hanging around if anyone wants to come and ask me questions off microphone. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Kat. Yeah, sure.
get going soon.
Unfortunately, the time is now 5 p.m, which means Comic-Con Sydney has now closed for the weekend. We would like to thank all attendees for having a great day with us here at Comic-Con. We hope you had an enjoyable time, and we look forward to seeing you next year or at another event soon around the calendar. But for now, we would ask you to make your way to the exit. We are closing down this evening and packing up this entire show tonight, and we will begin turning into a construction site very shortly. So we would ask you to make your way to the exit at the front of the dome. We appreciate you coming out. Hope you've had a fantastic time, and look forward to seeing you on site at the event soon.
You notice all the pins and stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, this advised, the event is now closed, and we ask for your assistance by making your way to the exit door. Thank you for attending, and we wish you a good evening. As today is our final day, we will commence dismantling and drawing out the exhibition shortly.
Yeah, except
Firstly, on behalf of Expertise Events, thank you to all exhibitors for being part of the event. We trust it was a success for you. However, please pay attention to the following safety points to ensure this evening's pack-up is as smooth, safe and fast as possible. Firstly, please ensure you and your staff are all wearing high-vis safety vests, are wearing enclosed footwear, and any children under the age of 15 will need to leave the event floor. To ensure we can grant access to the loading doors, trolleys and your storage, these requirements must be met as soon as possible. If you require safety vests for you or your staff, please visit the Event Service Centre. We encourage you to exercise safety and caution through the bump out. We would remind you to keep any personal belongings and valuables on you at all times. Should you have any questions during today's pack-up, please visit the Event Service Centre for assistance.
Subscribe to our free Superman homepage newsletter and stay in the loop. Go to supermanhomepage.com/newsletter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell to ensure you don't miss out on any of our new videos.